Sales Rep Radio.
Hi, everybody. This is Dan Walker, and this is Sales Rep Radio, a presentation of timeless sales tips and best practices from some of the world's most talented sales consultants. It's news from your world, and it starts right now.
Hot tips, Sales Rep Radio.
Okay, here's what we know. The universal goal of sales pros is to engage with the decision maker. And many times, that means a C-suite executive. But don't be scared. We have help. Speaker, author, and sales consultant Bill Stinnett, who heads up Sales Excellence, Inc., is here to shine a spotlight on how to get to the C-level. Bill, welcome into Sales Rep Radio.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Bill, getting ourselves in front of the right person, the decision maker, and knowing what to do once we get there is a big challenge nowadays. Why don't you set the table for us?
Well, it's been my experience that many salespeople feel the need or are kind of told by their management, you better reach the executive who's going to make a final decision in a buying process. So we get two big questions in the sessions that we do. First question, of course, is how do you even get through to the executive to start with? How do you get that person on the phone? How do you write a letter that's interesting to them? How do you leave a voicemail that they would respond to? How do you get past the gatekeeper so that you have a chance to talk to that person? But that's only half of it, is accessing the executive buyer, the decision maker. The other half is what are you going to say when you get there? So that's what I thought we'd talk about today.
Well, you've got our attention. Where do we start?
Okay, great question. First thing I'd like to point out is that we're probably going to have limited opportunities to meet the boss, let's say. If it's a small privately held company and there's one individual guy who owns the business, or if it's a large corporation and we need to access the CFO or CEO of the company for some, we're not going to get a chance to see them that many times. And so we need to figure out when is the best time to see this person and why would we see them to start with. Because if we can't go there 4 times, we better make the one time we get a chance to meet them really important. So first thing I would say is that I think that for many of us, we ask for this access or try to earn access to this executive too early in the process. Instead of studying the business and understanding some of the needs of the people within the organization, some of the opportunities that we can address, we want to get in there and meet the executive as early as we can so that we can talk at them and tell them all about us and our company and what we do and the things that we sell, not stopping to realize that they probably could care less about that. What they really want to know is, of all those things that you sell and all those great things that you are and can do, which of them apply to me in my business and how can you help me here now? And so I think a lot of times we should start by doing some of that work up front and ask for that executive level presentation or that opportunity to meet with the executive a little later on in the overall process.
Don't be so over-anxious to go right to the top just to blurt your features and benefits.
Yes, and the reason for that is when you get there, my attitude is this. When I go to the executive, that's part of an overall sales process. It's not the only piece of it. I don't expect that at the end of the day there, the executive is going to clap their hands and say, congratulations, you've won all of our business. It's more of an opportunity to be sponsored, if you will, to get access to more people throughout the company. Now, this does depend, of course, on what you're selling. If you're selling something that is not a big ticket, something that you can make a decision on in one day, then why not present to the president and hope that they will give you an order at the end of that day? But my background and experience, and those for a lot of the organizations that we work with, are for big ticket items, where they might spend several months, in fact, in a sales cycle working with lots of people throughout the company to ultimately make a sale. That opportunity to meet with the executives, whether that's one individual or a small group of them, you need to really have your ducks in a row and be very clear about what you want them to do or think differently after that presentation.
Sounds like some thoughtful strategizing is the way to start out. You got any thoughts on the best way to prepare?
Yeah, I sure do. First question is, why would we want that meeting with these executives to start with? And now here's what I like to ask people to think. What do we want them to think differently or do differently at the end of that meeting? And if we can go into that meeting or that presentation with that in mind, then that becomes our objective for the hour that we have with them, let's say, for example. In some cases, it might be to approve a proposal that we have based on everything that we've learned about their business. It might be to simply approve a further mutual discovery process that we're going to walk through with some additional people through the company. or simply to get them to buy into the idea that we are a viable solution provider or a potential partner for them if needs come up in the future. So we should understand why we're asking for that. We've already talked about when we should do this. I think a lot of times we need to be more prepared before we get there so that we can actually link together what we can do against the specific business challenges that they have. If we go too early, of course, all we do is just broadcast to them the things that we might be able to do, and we leave it up to them to figure out whether or not they need any of our help. If we've done some of our homework ahead of time, we can tie that together. But then I like to ask people to take this one more layer down. In addition to what are we trying to accomplish in this one meeting, if you're going to present using, let's say, a projector and use a PowerPoint deck of slides or something that you're going to do a presentation against, probably the biggest mistake I see people make is they go in there with too darn many slides. Got 42 different slides on all the different products and services that we offer. They've got a dozen slides in there about us and who we are and what we sell and how many offices we've got. And frankly, most of that stuff is just filler stuff. And I get a lot of pushback. People say, oh, well, that's how you build your credibility, Bill, is that you tell them all your existing clients and where your founder went to college and how many offices you've got worldwide. And I disagree. It's been my experience over 20 years of selling to executives that they're more impressed with what we've taken the time to learn about their business than with what we tell them about our business. And so all the more reason for us to be prepared ahead of time and have done our homework before we get in front of them.
Building credibility, and most importantly, doing it the right way.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, I think that credibility comes from our interest in and our willingness to take the time to understand their business and to really tie together, here's the things that we sell and that we offer, and here are the specific needs or business problems that we have observed and that you're encountering, and here's how the two work together. Here's how our solutions solve these particular problems, as opposed to coming in there. Here's what would be the difference. It would be the difference between going into the doctor's office and having the doctor just start in on a spiel of, let me tell you about penicillin. We've got all kinds of different solutions here to offer you. Penicillin comes in tablet form. It comes in capsule form. We can even give you an injection of it if you want. It solves this problem, that problem, this problem, that problem. Thousands of people have taken it. It's effective, very safe, and it's available to your local pharmacy. How much penicillin would you like today? That's a little different than what a doctor really does in that they diagnose before they prescribe. And if we do the same thing so that we come there with truly a map of how to carry them forward to solve those problems or accomplish those goals with what we sell, then we're really adding value to their day.
Interesting. So using your example, Bill, it's not, hey, look at all the colorful pills we have. It's, hey, let's get rid of that rash for you.
Exactly. Because nobody in this world wants penicillin, do they? They want to get rid of the rash. And they don't want, as we talked about before, they don't want your solution or your product or your service. What they want is the business value that they can derive from using it. So that's what we need to be focused on, even in our executive presentation. And I wanted to spend some time on that today because sometimes when we get a chance, oh my gosh, I've got an opportunity to meet with the big boss now for an hour. We think that our job is to get into what I call broadcast mode and just tell them. Or in another case, I hear a lot of salespeople wanting to put together an effective, what they call an elevator pitch. And the whole guise being here that if you stepped onto an elevator and the CEO got on there with you and you had 30 seconds between floor 1 and 10, what would you say to them during that 30 seconds? What's your elevator pitch? Well, the truth is, I like to craft 2 or 3 good elevator questions because they don't need to hear me talk. They hear every other vendor talk all day long. And every other meeting they walk into, they're doing slideshows. The vendors talk at them. We want to actually have a little bit more substance by doing that homework ahead of time and put together a real plan for how we can help with what we do.
Have our eye on the customer's relevant goal line well before you start in with your meeting.
That's right. And I want to make sure and add in one more thing here. Coming back to this idea, I said, what do we want them to do differently or think differently after this presentation's over? Make sure that you organize your presentation such that when you get to the end, you do have what some people would call a call to action. Okay, now that we've presented this, now that we've had this discussion, here's what we recommend doing going forward. We'd like you to enable us to meet with your engineering team to talk about how we can help you with engineering. We want you to approve this proposal that we're presenting today, either through your legal department or from a financial standpoint. Or we want to schedule another meeting with you where we can bring in another person from our company that has even more information to share with you. What is it you want to accomplish with this? I think that, again, when we're given that chance to go meet with the executive, it seems so unusual because we don't get so many chances to do it that it's something separate from your overall sales process. What I'm saying is that it needs to be just one more step in your process. And what that means is you need to prepare for it and you need to accomplish something while you're there. So be thinking about, before you ever walk in the room, what do I want those guys to agree to or commit to or fess up to or be willing to back me in when we're through.
Some really helpful thoughts to sharpen our professional edge. Bill Stinnett at salesexcellence.com. Thanks so much for loaning us your expertise here on Sales Rep Radio.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, that's going to do it for now, folks. Sales Rep Radio is a production of the Marcom Store, your source for audio and video training and communications, comprehensive e-learning, and, of course, custom corporate podcasts just like this one. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share this podcast. This is Dan Walker. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you again next time for another edition of Sales Rep Radio.